Today, we are going to dive into the places to visit section of our note taker. So you'll want to have that handy to help you complete the assignment after this video. And as you see on your note taker, it says for the first place to visit that it must be a landform, and in parentheses it says not man-made. So which of these show landforms, something that is not man-made? Can you identify how many there are? If you said there are 4 landforms, you would be correct. So probably easy to say the ones that are not, right? Clearly the Willis Tower here in Chicago. I picked some Chicago landmarks that are not landforms. This is clearly a man-made skyscraper. And then the Field Museum, also in Chicago, is clearly man-made. Even though they're great places to visit, they would not qualify as landforms. So here a giant canyon is a landform, a volcano, prairie. I'll move my video so you can see that one. Prairie, which we'd see a lot of in Illinois in the Midwest. And a river is a landform. Bodies of water can be landforms too, like rivers and lakes. I always find that a bit confusing since it's called a landform, but water is included in that definition. So now that we're clear on that, let's get to work. So last time we talked about the importance of using your thinking voice, not just reading the words. Think back. What are some questions you might be asking yourself as you read? Pause the video if you need more think time. Some of the ones we talked about last time were, do I understand what I just read? Is this brand new information or do I have a connection? And is this information important for my purpose? So today we will continue to build our skills as patient and active readers of informational text and researchers as we look through multiple sources to find an appropriate landform. Let's get started with that. So the first question you might be asking is, where should I research to find a landform? And as always, I want to direct you back to the state project websites 2021. Oops, I went too far. Let me escape that. So state project websites, and as you know, this is a Google Doc shared with you. So if you just start searching this title here, state project websites 2021, it'll pop up in your drive. It tells you not only the website, but some directions about how to get to the appropriate place on the website. So that is where you'll be looking at today. And if you notice on the top of your note taker, it tells you some particularly helpful ones. Teachers First, PebbleGo, Next, and Shepherd Software. So I'm going to look at those today. Then it has space for any others you might find. We'll talk about that. I want you to focus on land and geography sections as you read, and we'll practice this because we're looking for a landform. So those are really going to be the best places in terms of headings to look for, or to look under, I should say, the best places to find landforms. And then I'll also model this, but you want to make sure you check on World Book and Google Maps for additional information. I did not write World Book at the top of this note taker, but I really should have, because that one proves to be a great source for landforms and additional information. So let's go ahead. I'm going to model for Illinois using some of those resources. So I have up here, let's start on PebbleGo Next. So actually, I wanted to go through the steps so you can see these. When we're using PebbleGo, you have to do your username, password, click PebbleGo Next, states, and then find your region. So let me just show you that so that you see it in action. Sign in. And I already saved my password, but it's written on that doc if you need it. Now this is where I think it's a little tricky, right? You have to find the tab PebbleGo Next, and then you see states, and then you see your region, and then you find your state. Okay, so remember how I said focus on sections titled geography or land? And the reason is, so I noticed if I went right to the landmarks section, because I'm like, oh, I'm looking for a place to visit. Landmark seems to make sense, but and yours might have some different things, but what I found when I looked at the landmarks for Illinois, they were actually all man-made structures, right? None of these would qualify as landforms. Oh, I guess I could have done the Mason Creek fossil beds. Those would be made by nature, so that could count as a landform. But in a moment, you'll see I talk about finding enough information, and this was really the only time I read about these, so I wouldn't quite have enough information there to make that a really good place to visit. But so I'll look back at geography and start reading here. Three main land regions. The Shawnee Hills is a narrow region in southern Illinois. Its trees cover the hilly lands. The Shawnee National Forest covers a large part of this area. Ding, ding, ding. There's a possibility, right? A national forest would definitely be a landform I could consider. Okay, we'll read more. Gulf Coastal Plain is on the southern edge. The Mississippi River forms the western border. Maybe I want to do the Mississippi River. I mean, that definitely is a landform. But then I'm going to think, well, is that actually a place to visit, though? Would tourists going to Illinois actually go to the Mississippi River? It's important to Illinois, but I don't know if it would qualify as a place to visit. Same with the Ohio River, right? I'm skimming very quickly right now, but when you read, you are going to do all the good skills that we have practiced that a patient and active reader does, right? Be actually reading the passage, making some connections, stopping to check for your understanding. But I don't want to keep you on this video too long, so I'm going to go pretty quickly. So I had an idea with the Shawnee National Forest. Let me go search some of my other sites. So I also said Shepherd's Software, and same idea here. It has a what to see section, but in the what to see section, it doesn't actually list any landforms that I could find. So I'm going to look in the geography section. Okay, and then I'm going to skim through here. Ooh, Lake Michigan, that has potential as a Chicagoan. I frequently go to the lakefront path and view Lake Michigan, so that's something I could consider. Okay, keep reading a little more. Okay, so I would read this section, get ideas, and then I also wanted to visit Teachers First. So again, I'm just going to model this. So they have a heading called Sites to See. If I go to the Sites to See, you might, and it's worth reading your Sites to See because there's cool information there, and you might find a landform. But in my experience, I had better luck finding landforms in geography. Okay, so I'm going to read some geography here. Let's see what I find. Oh, I think this is the second time I've read about this Charles Mound, the highest point in Illinois. But that's only really one sentence about it, but good to know. And then it says the Shawnee Hills in the southern part of the state range from 300 to 1,065 feet above sea level. This was the national forest that I was reading about on Pebble Go. Okay, so I have some good ideas now of landforms, and I did that quickly. You're going to do that much more carefully. But then my next question for you is, how do I decide which landform to use? So the two questions that'll help you with that are, number one, is this a good place to visit? Remember, I kind of asked myself that with the Mississippi River and realized, well, that's such a long river. It's important to Illinois, but I wouldn't think of it as a tourist attraction or place people go. So number one, is this a good place to visit? And number two, do I have enough information about this landform? So I spent a while, longer than I just showed you, actually reading about Illinois. And in the end, I narrowed it down to kind of two landforms I wanted to decide between, the Shawnee National Forest or the Charles Mound. Now, remember how I also said it's important to check on World Book. So that's what I'm going to show you now. So when I was in my World Book for Illinois, I used a trick, which is Control F. You can already see my search. So you saw when I pressed Control F, that little bar popped up there. That's the search and find bar. So all you have to do is press Control and F at the same time on your keyboard. And now I'm going to look for Charles Mound. Oh, cool. So it tells me a little bit about the Charles Mound here, near the Apple River, highest point in Illinois. So far, and I read a little bit about it on Teachers First too, I think. So far, would you say is that enough information? I don't think I have quite enough information about that. Let me try my other one I was considering, the Shawnee Hills. Okay, so I used my search bar again. Okay, so there's a little bit there. And if you click enter on the search bar, it'll bring you to the next section. Okay, a little bit there. Ooh, here's a whole section. The Shawnee Hills, sometimes called Illinois' Ozarks, stretch across the southern part of the state for about 70 miles. Ooh, now I'm starting to learn about their size. The width of the area varies from 5 to 40 miles. The land ranges from 300 to 1,065 feet above sea level. It's a region of valleys, woods, river bluffs, and forested hill. Orchards thrive on many of the hills in this region of Illinois. So now I've read about the Shawnee Hills in World Book, in Pebble Go, and oh, that was the wrong one. Oh no, I went back to landmarks. In Pebble Go, and um, in was it in Teachers First? No, I don't think it was in Teachers First, but and in Shepherd Software, right? Did I write some down? Maybe not. Okay, but I have some good information, so I've narrowed it down actually. I have some really good information about them in Pebble Go and in World Book. And if I'm asking myself those two questions of if this is a landform, yes, and do I have enough information, I can say yes to both. Oh, actually, I guess it would be three questions because that'd be a landform. Is it a good place to visit? And do I have enough information? And it hits all three. So that's what I chose for Illinois. Now I want to show you one other trick that didn't work for me, but it might work for you in World Book. So see up here in World Book, I'm going to close the find bar. There's a magnifying glass. This opens up the whole encyclopedia to search. So I could type in Shawnee National Forest, and it'll search all of World Book. Well, like I told you, I didn't really have any luck with that. It just pulled up elk for me on there, which I probably are in this national forest, but not something I'm going to emphasize. But for you, it's worthwhile to just try searching your actual landform because, for instance, if your landform were the Grand Canyon National Park, I'm sure you'll get a whole big article and lots more information. Now, one more tip for you researchers, other than all these great state project websites, you are allowed to use Google Maps, and we actually put it on your state project websites. So if you go into Google Maps, this can really help you to visualize where in your state the landform actually is. So if I typed in Shawnee National Forest, you want to make sure you have the right one. Look, it actually even gives a little description here, so I might add how you could hike and camp and rock climb there. And then here it tells me the city. Look, so I know it's in Harrod, Illinois. Since we know it's a large area, it spans several cities, but at least one of them, one central location would be in Harrod, Illinois. Now remember the trick when you search in Google Maps, it starts really zoomed in. So I'm going to click this minus arrow out here to zoom out. And then I'm going to start getting a better picture of Illinois and a better picture of the Midwest so I can understand where this place actually is. So once I've zoomed out, oh, now I see kind of the bottom tip of Illinois. Let me move myself out of the way. Now you can really see, right? The red dot down here shows it's very much in the southern tip of Illinois. And this picture is reminding me, the last thing I wanted to show you on Pebble Go, when I was researching, I really wanted to use my text features, including images. So this says rock formation in the Garden of the Gods in Shawnee National Forest. So just that one little picture and caption actually gave me a fact that I wanted to include in my research. That part of why it's a great place to visit is there is a Garden of the Gods. There you can find beautiful rock formations. Okay, last little bit. So now we We know where to look, and we know how to decide which landform to use. And finally, I want to show you a finished product. So these were my notes on Shawnee National Forest. Let me make them bigger for you. What do you notice as you look at these? If you need extra think time, pause the video. Hopefully you're noticing that I had a lot of detail. Right? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 detailed bullet points, but they are bullet points. It's note form. I wasn't necessarily writing in complete sentences. Maybe you noticed too that I answered all the questions that were asked up here. Why it's a good place to visit, what features does it have, what size is it, and what else do you want to tell your audience about it? If as you're searching, you're having trouble answering one of these questions, make a note in your research or on a separate sheet of paper of questions to continue research. So say you were really having a hard time finding the size, make a note on here that in the websites you searched, you couldn't yet find the size. That's a question that still needs to be answered. And we'll give you some more tips on other resources if that's the case. Also, again, in the city, I use Google Maps, but I knew it wasn't just in Harrod, Illinois. If it's going to be 70 miles stretch, it was going to cover several cities, and I could kind of see that on Google Maps. Now, maybe you noticed the flaw in my notes page. I forgot to circle the sources I used. So we know for this one, I would have said I used Pebble Go, and then I would have listed another source as World Book and Google Maps. Okay, so now you are experts on landforms and how to research a landform effectively. Go ahead and do it.